Welcome back, everyone. President Muhammadu Buhari is in Jordan. He has actually left Jordan and is in Dubai as we speak. He attended the World Economic Forum and he gave a keynote address. Part of that speech touched on security in Nigeria. Take a listen to the president.
It is at this point that we must ask ourselves how we, as a region, got to this point. The answer, at least in the case of Nigeria, is the lack of social and economic inclusion.
Well, it has been a very big battle to put out a flame of insurgency in some parts of the northeastern region of the country. But the spate of kidnappings and armed banditry is giving Nigerians a lot of concerns. States like Kaduna and Zamfara have been worse hit by some of these violent attacks. Zamfara has been experiencing attacks by bandits which have led to the loss of many lives and properties, including 50 people who were reportedly killed on Tuesday. The attacks have triggered protests and criticisms, with many Nigerians accusing the president, Muhammadu Buhari, and his government of not doing enough to address this situation. Today, the federal government has directed a halt to all mining activities in Zamfara State. The Inspector General of Police, Muhammad Adamu, gave his order, while briefing newsmen in Abuja today. The IGP says all foreigners at the mining site should vacate their locations with immediate effect. A security operation codenamed Operation Puff Adder is to flush out bandits in Zamfara and neighboring states. The operation is to collaborate with members of the Directorate of State Security Service, DSS, National Intelligence Agency, NIA, and other security agencies. Well, let me show you that you're watching is from the Nigerian Air Force, some of the operations that they held, I guess, on the 4th of April against these armed bandits. Let me allow you to also listen to the acting Inspector General of Police on the situation that the federal government is banning or suspending activities of miners in Zamfara State. Take a listen to him.
As part of a sustained effort to flush out and permanently put an end to armed banditry and criminality in Zamfara State in particular, and the Northwest in general, the Nigeria Police Force, in collaboration with the Nigerian military and other security services, has commenced Operation Buff Adder, which is a full-scale security offensive against the bandits. The operation is aimed at reclaiming every public space under the control of the bandits, arrest and bring to book all perpetrators of the violence in the area and their collaborators.
Well, what is a government without securing the lives of the people as the Constitution and some of the traditions of government across the world is solely, majorly rather, to protect lives and property. So the scary monsters are in town, and a lot of Nigerians are looking at how these monsters will be chased out of town. So the president said, I'm the unhappiest leader in the world. Take a listen to what he said. Quote, it is ridiculous and unfair to suggest that I'm not concerned about the situation in Zamfara or doing anything about it. He went further to say that ensuring the protection of the people of Nigeria is one of my primary responsibilities and functions. No other issue dominates my attention as much. So today, the police are taking a decision for miners to stop, especially foreigners, to quit those areas of mining in the meantime. And so President Buhari has made a promise. Take a listen to what he said. He said, quote, the politicization of tragedy reveals the darkest sides of our primitive politics. He went further to say, I have ordered rapid and robust deployment of troops to all the areas currently under attack from bandits, and we are determined to tackle this challenge ferociously until these remorseless killers are crushed and utterly defeated. Those are the words of the president. Let's get some perspective now, everyone. Let's talk about ending these mindless killers who are ravaging some parts of our country. Let's get some perspective and hear from the presidency on this matter. I have joining me Mr. Garba Shehu. He's a president, senior media assistant. And in Abuja studio is Mr. Vince Onyekwelu. He's a security consultant and a former British police officer. Of course, one of Nigeria's most senior lawyers, senior advocate of Nigeria, Robert Clark, has been talking to us right here in our Lagos studio. Let's get some perspective from Mr. Garba Shehu now. Mr. Shehu, a lot of Nigerians are concerned, and the big question is, how concerned President Buhari is. The question they are asking is, what is the government doing to curb and to stop these senseless killings?
Well, as you read in that statement, the president clearly has given those instructions out that the armed services of the country, including the secret services, must go out there, reclaim all territory, and dominate the space. And to ensure that this matter, this problem is dealt with decisively and finally, so that we don't keep coming back and again going back and forth over this matter. It is equally important that the president has made appeals to communities, because look, all of these criminals that they are dealing with, the bandits and the kidnappers, they are not dropping from the sky. They are members of our given communities. And the disturbing part of what has come out in the last few days is also the fact that it has even become possible for community leaders, including traditional rulers, to sit down with bandits and strike agreements that you keep my domain free, and they host them in their own communities where they launch attacks, across their own boundaries and go on to other communities and commit. So while the government is committed to doing everything that it will take to bring this to an end, look, the communities have a big role to play, and unless they're ready to do this, this isn't going to be successful.
Part of the concerns, when people raise the concern about these killings in this part of the country, is what the president is doing, and perhaps whether or not he is there physically to see for himself what is happening. And the president did say that he's always meeting regularly with his security chiefs on what is happening. What can you tell us is the findings of government that will be very useful for Nigerians to know in terms of these armed bandits? Because the speculations are that maybe these are just Boko Haram masquerading as bandits.
Well, in a recent briefing also, the army did indicate that some elements of Boko Haram had been identified, had been seen with the kind of sophisticated weaponry that they had wielded in those communities. So yes, it is true that, but given the attack that the government has launched on illegal mining, this quick sense of Nigerians to get rich and at all cost has been found to be a key factor in all of the things that are also playing out, because individuals are scampering for territorial space, and they're sharing out this domain and that domain between themselves and killing each other. So all of these things have been identified, and it's a matter of time. The government is going to go in there and will ensure that these criminal elements are removed and the peace is permanently established in those areas.
A big question. Some of the things that the president said in Durban at the World Economic Forum is that there is a lack of social and economic inclusion. And he did mention specifically the situation in Nigeria. So if the president has identified in that speech, beyond the issues of talking, what will you tell Nigerians today, Mr. Shehu, if the government realizes that there is a lack of social and economic inclusion, and there's a reason for some of the insecurity we are seeing, is the government making any move in this regard?
Well, in so many ways, indeed, because you know that, apart from the first in the country that has been into the social investment scheme that has been instituted in the country, the government has paid a lot of attention on diversification of the economy, growing agriculture and solid minerals mining. Now, the thing is that these are areas of the economy that that can employ a lot of Nigerians and give them opportunity, to earn a living and avoid in situations like this. And of course, it's a matter that sociologists have defined sufficiently. Where there is comfort, where there is access to basic needs and all, it's unlikely that people will resort to the kind of things that you are seeing. So recruitment, poverty provides recruitment, a lot of recruitment for criminality. And when we tackle poverty in the country, we certainly are indirectly tackling criminality. So this is being addressed through the diversification of the economy, which the president has announced at that summit.
Stay with us, Malam Garba Shehu. Let's turn to Abuja studio. We still have Chief Robert Clark here with us. Let's turn to the professional security consultant now, and to hear from him. He served as a British police officer at some point. Mr. Vincent Onyekwelu, thank you so much for coming on the program tonight. So let's ask you, from your own assessment and your own findings, what is your take on the situation, the armed banditry, and the rise in kidnappings across the country, in some major parts of the country?
Honestly, what I would say to you is I hear pure semantics. I hear pure semantics. The bottom line is that Nigeria as a country, I feel pained when I hear that people are dying in Nigeria left, right, and center, and nobody is found responsible for all this death. What I hear is semantics. What I hear is pure delay tactics. There is no value to the lives of innocent Nigerians being killed across Nigeria. Not only in Zamfara, people are still dying in Borno State, Enugu State, Anambra State, Taraba, Adamawa, Yobe. It's pure graveyard right now in Nigeria. And it breaks my heart that the government is not doing enough to secure the lives of Nigerians. It breaks my heart that the Nigerian army will go there and drop a bomb on suspected bandits. Then how do you get intelligence? How do you get evidence? How do you get forensics about who they are? You drop a bomb. The truth of the matter is, I'm short of words, that there are 5 steps you take in managing this kind of mass killings. Number 1, you understand the sites. You deal with the sites. Number 2, you understand there are people with intention to kill and destroy lives. How do you identify them? How do you arrest them and prosecute them? Number 3, there are victims of these killings. Mothers, daughters, sons are left without parents. What is the Nigerian government doing about the victim care support to support the victims from the people that their parents are being killed or their loved ones are being killed? Nothing. Number 4, how are we in charge that what is coming out of this, that the world is not painting us black? Okay, Mr. President has done well to go to this World Economic Forum. What is the bad reputation that people are being killed in Nigeria? That Nigeria has turned to almost a graveyard. People die, you don't even know where their graves are marked. What are we talking about in Nigeria? That people are dying. In Zamfara State, you have gold mines. You've got different kinds of mines. Who gave them the licenses to operate there? What is going on in this country? It's pure semantics. It breaks my heart. I'm short of words. We are not doing enough. It's pure semantics. They are doing nothing. When they are supposed to do something, they will secure our borders. That way they know who comes into the country.
Okay, Mr. Onyekwelu, I mean, let's break it down for a moment. You are the expert here in terms of security. You've seen it perhaps where you've worked before. Let's look at the specific situation in Nigeria, especially in Zamfara and Kaduna. The trend of attacks of some of these bandits and killers, the way they approach, they go and come back and return into these communities. They burn them, they rob them, they kill and maim people. In that kind of scenario, how best is it to arrest that kind of situation when you cannot pin down these killers because they are transitory, they go and come back?
Number 1, let me tell you something. When you live in a society that's got no identification system, You don't even know who is Obi and who is Ada. You don't even know who is Adamu and who is Musa. It's all confusion. We need to have an ID system working in Nigeria. If it's not working, the confusion will keep mounting. Number two, yes, in southern Kaduna, Governor El Rufai is doing his best. In Zamfara State, the governor there, based on what I've heard about him, when Madam Kadira Ahmed was talking about him yesterday, that he basically lives in Kaduna. Lives in Abuja. He rarely stays in his state. Now, how do you expect a community whereby the leadership is not even visible? That if it's true that the Zamfara governor doesn't live in Zamfara most of the time, that he spends most of the time in Abuja here, how do you actually understand what happens there? That those people that perpetuate these killings, they belong to communities. How can you show love to the victims of those crimes? By bringing them close, show them love, support them. The same people that are victims today will give you information tomorrow about who are the criminals because they live in the same community. But when you overlook the victims and their families, they are scared. Now you need to form what you call a foundational principle and a tactical plan of what happens. There is nothing like that. In Nigeria, crime is done in somewhere in Zamfara State. People go there, soldiers, they use their boots and mess up all the whole forensics. How can you now run a check on who they are? You've got firearms all over Nigeria. Borders are porous. How do you think we're going to do this? It breaks my heart. Trust me, I'm not trying to be a scaremonger or a fearmonger. There is no solution. The idea of Mr. President and the IGP to stop mine activities, fantastic. Very good. I support that idea. But they need to be seen to be doing more. Because right now, the blood of Nigerians is littered across graveyards in Nigeria, unmarked graveyards. No respect for Nigerians. It breaks my heart.
Let's speak to, those are very strong words there from Mr. Onyekwelu. But the case of the Zamfara governor, those are some other issues that one cannot verify, whether or not how much he stays in the state or not. Let's hear from Chief Robert Clark. From your own point of view, is there anything legally speaking that could be done to stop these senseless killings?
Well, I was reading the newspapers 3 days ago, and Dangote stated that 54% of northern Nigeria, that makes 54% of the mass and the geographical areas, has the greatest poverty level. The problem in Nigeria, let's be honest, is more or less poverty. When in a country, the money that is being generated for you and I are being consolidated in the hands of the politicians, either in the executive, either in the legislature, wherever they are. Many people know that the greatest way to make money in Nigeria today is to go into politics. So if you cannot go into politics and you are seeing your mates enjoying money as politicians, that is the lure for the younger ones to go into other trades, kidnapping, and so on. So my problem is that we are just killing the lakpa and leaving the leprosy. The problem here is that the system of governance has to change. We cannot have a system of governance where the governor of a state will sit on the money of a state and 80% of such money goes into sustaining its government. Salaries and allowances to local government, to his own aides. You can see that the youth of this country are now tired and they want to make money as much as the politicians are making money.
What about the fact that some of these governors are not even empowered by law to even secure their own states?
What do you mean they are not empowered by law? They have the police command.
But they are not the one commanding.
They are the one.
Centrally
Look, it's another area to talk about. But no governor will tell you he's not in charge of the security of the state. I don't believe any governor will say that. If you say the personnel that he uses are not controlled by him, okay, it's a different cup of tea. But definitely, every governor is in charge of the security.
So you don't see a reason why the clamor for state policing should be enforced urgently?
That is an issue for another day.
Maybe for the next...
Because it will not... What I want Nigerians to know today is not about state police or no state police. That money is not going to the youths. And the youths are seeing their counterparts who are in politics spending money. So they have decided either to go into banditry or to go into kidnapping to make money. Let us look at our system of governance. Why should money be concentrated in the hands of a few people?
We take another break. My panel tonight on the program, they're still with me. And when we return, we'll be talking more on how to crush the killers. That's next on the program. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, and welcome back to the program. So we're in some of our final moments on the program, and the issues of security taking our attention. Mr. Garba Shehu, the Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media, has been talking to us from London. And Mr. Vince Onyekwelu is a security consultant and a former British police officer. Is in our Abuja studio. Chief Robert Clark, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, is here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being on the program today. You were talking in regards of the legal framework of Nigeria. You did tell me during the break about the need for Nigeria to look into the Constitution.
I have always said it. The Constitution we are operating, or which we have been operating since 1999, does not augur well for this country. A Constitution that devolves all powers to the governor in a state, to Mr. President, for the whole federation, is not one that one can safely say will land us to the promised land. Also, the checks and balances in the 1999 Constitution have been trampled upon by the executive, so that the legislature, which should have been the savior of you and I, have always been pocketed by the executive. And therefore, there is no hope for the downtrodden. You see, a system where to maintain your governance, you spend 80% of the revenue you collect. Where then do you do any developmental programs? And that is what is happening in Nigeria. By the time Abuja pumps all the money to the states, by the time they go back, they pay salary, they do this, nothing for development. You and I, our children, will not have anywhere to go on recreation in a state. So my view is that we should all sit down and remove this barrier that makes it so good for everybody to be a politician. So good in the sense that it is easy to take money out from the system. Anybody who does 2 terms in the Senate or in the House of Representatives, you can see the difference when he gets back home. We know many of them. They were nothing. We know those who have spent 2 years in the States and House of Reps, maybe 1, and they are doing their 2nd term in the Senate, who had no car to ride in 1999. Today they are riding bulletproof cars. It is the same system that allows it. But whereas you and I are suffering, our children are suffering. That is what is bringing out this banditry. That is what is bringing out cultism. That is what is bringing up, because they too want to make money.
Let me allow Mr. Onyekwelu. We'll go to Mr. Garba Shehu, perhaps. He will give us reaction to some of the issues that have been raised. Mr. Onyekwelu, if there is something that is urgent that this government needs to take on, what would that be?
First of all, let me be brief because of your time. First of all, you have to understand that this gold that we are hearing that is being mined in Zamfara state, it's supposed to be a national asset, okay? Just like the way we've got crude oil or we've got liquefied natural gas. It's supposed to be national asset. How come the licensing is not clear to Nigerians? How much is Zamfara state making? Who are the government people in governance that are enjoying the monies coming out from this licensing? That needs to be get cleared, because that could possibly be where the gangs or cult groups are fighting for territorial integrity. And that could be the reason why the killings are coming up. We have to also be aware that Nigeria as a country is going down the drain because of arms proliferation in Nigeria. What are we doing about light weapons and firearms in Nigeria? In England, for example, if you are arrested with a firearm and live bullet, you're going down for 5 years minimum or 3 years minimum, as the rules has changed now. What are we doing about people possessing arms illegally in Nigeria? How many years they're gonna go into prison for? There's nothing like that in Nigeria. And finally, sir, we need to understand that what goes around comes around. Previously in Nigeria, it's about Borno State, Adamawa, and Yobe. But right now, the killing has gone through Plateau, Adamawa, Benue, Zamfara, Enugu, Anambra. We don't know if they are Boko Haram, or if they are headsmen, or if they are kidnappers, or if they are bandits. This is a new nomenclature now, bandits. No longer armed robbers. It's a mess. People need to wake up and smell the coffee, that it's a mess. People in power need to stop the killing of lives and property in Nigeria. Too many blood, too many unmarked graveyards. It's unfair. It breaks my heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Onyekwelu. Let's allow Mr. Garba to react to some of these issues. I know your party did what they called the sort of a restructuring of True Federalism Committee, which came up with his own report. And there's been an issue of we need to look into our constitution. Is the government of President Muhammadu Buhari thinking in this direction of how there might be some rejigging of some gray areas in our ground norm?
Well, obviously, there is so much that is being contemplated. But, you know, of significance is the issue of the state police, about which so much has been said. And you know that on principle, the president himself has clearly indicated that he wasn't opposed to it. But given the practical realities on the ground, it is hardly sustainable given that states in the country that cannot even pay teachers and the civil servants for sometimes up to 1 full year. So what happens to the country when you hire policemen and you arm them with guns and you don't pay them salary? You're going to complicate security problems in the country. Some other issues that have been raised, I think that we need to task community leaders in those areas more, to do more. It is very escapist for many of them to keep looking to Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja to say he will solve all security problems when immediately they are unable to do their own part. Evidence is present that there is some form of collaboration, communal collaboration with criminal elements. And of course, the young people about whom also so much has been said, I think that they should look to opportunities. I don't think anything justifies criminality. And in any case, there are many instances where a poor man would pick money on the ground, a lot of it, money that he or she needs, but they will turn it over to authorities and say, well, this is
Mr. Shehu, perhaps we should end on this note, and I'd like you to make it as brief as possible so we can close the program. Are Nigerians expecting a drastic move from the president as the leader of the country because he's come to a head right now, the insecurity in some of these states? Are we to expect a very drastic decision from President Muhammadu Buhari on some of these issues?
And the action has already...
Not a good time for technology to fail us, but we have to leave it at that. Chief Robert Clark, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Always my pleasure.
It's a pleasure having you. Mr. Vince Onyekwelu, security consultant and former British police officer, thank you for coming on. I see that Malam Garba Show is back. In 10 seconds, if you can quickly respond to my question. Any drastic move by the president? Quickly, please. We lost him again. Well, thank you, Mr. Garba Show, for talking to us. That's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Enjoy the rest of the day.